Alright, this is a S54 valve adjustment for a E46 M3. Briefly, first let's go over what you'll need to get this job done. Let's have a look here. You'll need feeler gauges, a magnetic tool, handling tool from BMW. You can see the magnet right there, makes it really easy to pick up the shim. Speaking of shims, you'll need your own set of shims, or if you like, you can order the shims that you only need. I went ahead and bought the whole entire set because I'll probably be adjusting the valves in the future as well. But moving on, let's just talk about, it's a double vanos. This is the intake camshaft, and that's the exhaust, obviously. We'll be making our adjustment for cylinder 4 on the intake, which will be this one right here. And I'll show you how to measure it, and if it needs correction, how to gauge the thickness of the new shim, and we can go on from there. So the first thing we need to do is to get the lobe pointing directly up. You can see it's pointing straight up, and we'll be measuring. Let's see if I can show you. Right underneath the lobe, and it's pretty hard to see. It's just two hands working the camera and the light, but it's right underneath here. You can't miss it. When you get there and use a feeler gauge, you know exactly where to measure. Now the tolerances are that gap that's underneath that cam lobe cannot be any thinner, any narrower than 18 hundredths of a millimeter. So I have a .178 feeler gauge, and the maximum, it can't be wider than 0.23 to 23 hundredths of a millimeter. So let's first look at the lower end, which I don't know if you can see it. 0.18, here we are. And again, it's just going to go right underneath, right here where it sits, and it goes in just fine. In fact, it feels somewhat loose, so I know that a 0.2 would probably fit. Let's go ahead and go to the 0.23. It fits as well. In fact, it's snug, and I'd say it's still within spec, because remember, that's the most we can tolerate. It's totally up to you, because me personally, I would actually I would go to a thicker shim, just because I know over time the shim will wear down, or whatever the reason may be. It's going to get wider down underneath that cam lobe. So let's just say it's way off spec, and we need to adjust it anyway. We'll pull this bracket. It comes out just like that. There's an arm right underneath that just slides over. You just slide over with your finger. There it is. See, it slides. And what that does, it's going to expose the shim, which you can't see. And before you get the shim with your magnetic tool, handling tool, you want to be sure to take the necessary precaution not to drop it, because you don't want to fish this out of the oil pan. So get it, and very carefully take it out, just like that. So we got a new shim. We'll measure it, and then we'll pick up a thicker shim. Alright, so I've selected my shim, and it's slightly thicker. Time to reinstall it. There we go. Switch hands. There's the new shim. It says 232, but I measured it, it's actually a 2.28, whereas the original shim was 2.26. So there it goes. Alright, so it's in. Next thing we do, slide the arm back over. See if I can do this one-handed. And there we have it, slid over. We'll remeasure. What do we got? Should be on this side. 1 second. Alright, here are our tolerances. 0.18. That fits, but it's pretty tight. It's good. That's in spec. 0.20. 0.20 right here, and that doesn't fit. So I know it's between 0.18 and 0.2, so it's probably 0.19. So now the valve is in spec. Reinstall the bracket, and then once you're done with all the valves, place this O-ring, the valve cover gasket, and you can't see it, but the nuts that hold down the valve cover, they'll need to be replaced too. And that's how you adjust the S54 valves.